Hi guys and welcome to a new video. So this is the first video of my e-scooter building series. In this series we're going to take a normal e-scooter and going to upgrade that e-scooter not only in terms of performance but also in functionality and features into something that is way more useful for me and I think for probably even most people. I think everybody can agree on the fact that e-boards just look and also feel way cooler than any e-scooter out there on the market, right? Riding without any handlebars, it just feels very nice. It's like surfing on the pavement. Also, they are really portable and easy to carry around. You can throw them in the back of your car or get them on the train, and that's how I use my e-board. I just travel around with it a lot. And there's the other side, e-bikes obviously. E-bikes are all great for long distances, are very safe and fast to ride, and you can lock it up anywhere in the city. So there's like a lot of good reasons why you should own an e-bike, right? Like e-bikes have their own like use case for long distances in the city and on rough roads, even in bad weather conditions. And on the other side you have e-boards, which are great for carrying around, being really portable, really fun to surf around on, right? I can't combine both the benefits unless I own a e-scooter. Combine some of the benefits from e-boards and some of the benefits from e-bikes together. And I think this creates a really fun vehicle. So I got my hands on a fun little scooter. One of my colleagues actually received this scooter from another company. And while we worked there, he often told me that we need to upgrade the scooter and put in a bigger motor controller, maybe even a bigger battery, and just make it faster. We never had enough time for the project, and so nothing ever happened, and this e-scooter was just laying around in the corner. When me and him left the company, we later on agreed that one day we will definitely upgrade this electric scooter, right? But then he also started his own startup and I did my stuff, right? So there was also not really any time for us to meet up and do this project. So a year later or so, he just wrote me a message and was like, do you want to pick the scooter up? You can have it and it's yours and you can build whatever you want with it. So when I received the e-scooter, the first thing I did was obviously test it out. How good was the current version of it? And I have to say it was terrible. The range of the City Bug e-scooter was like 8 kilometers. And the maximum speed was like 20 kilometers an hour. And also it feels like very sluggish. When you pressed on the throttle, it took forever to accelerate and it was really annoying. That kind of made me think like, what do I need to swap out, right? Do I even have to swap out the motor maybe even? So what I did was basically connect the motor to a VASC and measured everything out. And I realized the motor isn't actually too bad. The main issue is obviously the motor controller because it's not providing enough amps. It was also a very cheap block signal motor controller compared to like for example the VASC. But that was not the only issue. Also the battery, I don't know if it aged a lot or something or they put in terrible cells. But I mean the range was so bad. Like 8 kilometers was like the max I was getting out of it. And like the last 20% or something, the scooter only drove like 5 kilometers an hour or something. So it was practically unusable in the end. So there were obviously a lot of issues to this thing. There are mainly two things I want to do. So good regenerative braking, good throttle input, a VASC as a motor controller. And then the second thing I want to do is build a custom battery that is easily swappable. If my battery is drained, I can just literally swap out the batteries and put in 2 new ones and continue riding. These were my 2 biggest goals of this whole project. Swappable battery and way better control of the e-scooter. So let me show you. This is the current battery pack right here. Oh, actually, you can glue on these sides and you basically put it in from the bottom, right? Like this, and then you can press it in, and it has this little latch right here on the end, which basically can be pressed down, and thus you can basically just push it in and it locks itself into place. And when you want to remove it and swap it out, you just press on here and pull out the battery. So out here we have the XT60 connector later on, and here we will have the balancing leads. Why the balancing leads, you might ask? So what I want you to do with this battery is basically for example, quadrocopters or things like that, you usually have like these kinds of batteries. They only have an XT60 lead on one end, and then on the other you have your balancing lead, right? And then this thing takes over all the work for balancing the battery and making sure that none of the cells are over voltage, too low of a voltage, and they all have the right resistance and things like that. So this is basically your BMS in that case. So obviously when draining the battery, since we use a VASC, we can easily monitor the battery voltage in total. Obviously not per cell, but we can measure, we will measure how much voltage is on the whole pack. And when the voltage gets kind of too low, we will slowly cut off the power. And with this thing, we can easily all balance them out and charge them up. And this is the current battery pack, and this is how it will look. So let me show you how it looks when it's fully assembled. So when it's fully assembled, and you can just put in the cells right here, and you will stack them all up, glue them in, and spot weld them together. And boom, you got yourself a battery here. So you want to have like a sharp edge that pushes in this latch here, right? But for that to work, you obviously need to have like a rounded body. Otherwise you can't rotate it around this axis. So what I had to do is, as you can see here, I had to shave off a lot of the stuff, and I also had to redesign the cover plate and stuff like that for it all to match. But now it should work. Actually, you know what? I can show you right now. So the first thing I will do is connect the XT60 connector, and then put in the battery like this, and then just latch it in. Boom, and we're done. You can see it wobbling, but this won't come out. This is super strong in here. And if I want to pull out the battery, let's say I'm in the middle of a ride and my battery is drained and I want to swap it out, put in a new one, I just grab here, go like this, and boom. I mistakenly, I don't know, I connected ground and 5 volt green to black. So yeah, I need to switch the wiring around. I messed up the sensor wires, so I'll do that. I'll fix that real quick. So let's hit our motor detection again. Let's see if this works. Let's see if they all sense signals. The motor is turning. You can see right now what it's doing. It's basically rotating it very slowly so it can sense all the magnetic signals that get fed back through the sensor wires into the VASC. And yes, we finally got our Hall sensors working. So that's really awesome. But what I'm interested in is, can we also get the temperature sensor reading? Because that would be like really useful. Usually you would have to cut down your current very low so that you don't overheat the motor. So the first option is usually keep the current really low so that the motor never ever even gets close to overheating. And option B is put in a temperature sensor and then measure the temperature all the time, and thus you can have way more torque, because now all of a sudden you can set up the torque to whatever you want. In the worst case situation, the motor just throttles the power and nothing else happens, nothing gets burned up. Next step would be, let's check out if we can get the temperature reading from the motor, right? So let's go to the real-time data tab. We're already logging real-time data, and currently the temperature motor is sitting as minus 99 degrees. So that's kind of an issue right there. This is our resistance to ground, and that's obviously not right. In contrast to that, here's our resistance to 5 volts, 140 kilo ohms. I mean, that could be a actual rating. But to verify that, the motor is cold right now, so it's 114 kilo ohms, right? FOC open loop. We need to enable our heartbeat, how much current we want, like I don't know, 20 amps at 30 RPM. You hit enter, and now the motor starts turning. with basically 30 ERPM, and it's pushing 20 amps into the motor windings. And right here you can see we are currently pushing in around 50 watts of constant power. So that should be enough. And let's measure again. Now we're down to 90 kilo ohms, and it's slowly creeping up again. So that shows us this is actually the temperature reading right here. So I'm really happy that I got the hall sensors to work at least. What I need to figure out now is the temperature sensor didn't work. You need to open up the motor and actually swap out the connection so that the temperature sensor is not connected to 5 volts but instead is connected to ground. I don't know why the manufacturer decided it was a good idea to wire the temperature sensor to 5 volts. Nobody usually does that. So in the next video I'm probably going to be spot welding the first battery out of these old recycled cells. So what I did for a good colleague who helped me also build my e-bike, he basically gave me a old Bosch e-bike battery and told me that the battery was basically broken. And I measured the cells and yep, sure, some of them were at 0 volts. So what I basically did back then was strip out all the old cells, put in new cells and spot weld the whole battery together. But I actually kept the old cells. I still have them right here. And in total I will make 4 battery packs. I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something today and see you in the next one. Ciao!